Hello, I'm Nathan Martin with the Divine Pollination Hive and the UnityProcess.com. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing the Mandela Effect and our locus of control, and where our locus of control actually is. Is it inside or is it outside? This is to help people understand why some people remember and some people do not, while some people see the Mandela Effect and others refuse to. If this is something that interests you, stay tuned. Locus of control. In personality psychology, locus of control is the degree to which people believe that they have control over the outcome of events in their lives, as opposed to external forces beyond their control. Understanding of the concept was developed by Julian B. Rotter in 1954 and has since become an aspect of personality studies. People's loci, plural of locus, or Latin for place or location, is conceptualized as either internal, those people who believe they can control their life, or external, meaning they believe their decisions in life are controlled by environmental factors which they cannot influence, or that chance or fate controls their lives. Individuals with a strong internal locus of control believe events in their life derive primarily from their own actions. For example, when receiving exam results, people with an internal locus of control tend to place or blame themselves and their abilities. People with a strong external locus of control tend to praise or blame external factors such as the teacher or the exam. Internal locus of control. The belief that one's life events and experience, whether good or bad, are highly influenced by personal factors such as one's attitude, preparation, efforts, and actions. In fact, I would go even further and say state of being. External locus of control. The belief that one's life events and experience, whether good or bad, are mostly caused by forces outside of your control, such as the environment, other people, or even a higher power. The devil made me do it, or God gave me, the protection, or whatever it is. It's outside and not inside. Internal locus of control, you make things happen. External locus of control, things happen to you. Locus of control is really connected to cause and effect. And cause and effect is actually one of the 7 Hermetic principles. It's a natural law. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for a law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. And this is from the Kybalion, which is the 6th Hermetic principle of cause and effect. Karma is the principle of cause and effect. Those who have mastered their karma have mastered the Hermetic principle of cause and effect. To say that karma does not exist is to say that cause and effect does not exist. It is not some woo-woo principle, but a foundational principle of logic. Cause and effect is very, very important. In fact, that's all karma is. When somebody says it's my karma, that means that I caused this. I created this experience. I caused it, and now it is coming back to me. It is the ability to follow the logic to its natural end and to see that, oh, it ends in destruction. That's my karma. That's my effect. I created this. One of the big things with cause and effect is that there is a whole list of logical fallacies dedicated to cause and effect. So I'm going to give you 2 of them, which is confusing cause and effect and wrong direction. Description of confusing cause and effect. Therefore, A is the cause of B. This fallacy requires that there is not, in fact, a common cause that actually causes both A and B. This fallacy is committed when a person assumes that one event must cause another just because the events occur together. This is quite common. Well, these things happen together, therefore A caused B. Well, just because A and B happen together doesn't mean that they are actually connected through causality. There could be some other cause for A and B, and they just so happened to happen together, to occur together. Wrong direction is an informal fallacy of questionable cause, where cause and effect are reversed. The cause is said to be the effect and vice versa. For instance, the statement driving a wheelchair is dangerous because most people who drive them have had an accident. Well, we know that the accident caused the wheelchair didn't cause the accident. At least in most cases. I mean, maybe there was an accident with a wheelchair, but you see what I'm saying here. Wrong direction is very important when it comes to locus of control, because which direction is actually cause? Is external cause or internal cause? When internal is cause and external is effect, have we reversed cause and effect? Or when external is cause and internal is effect, have we reversed cause and effect? Which direction is the correct direction? The Matrix Reloaded is the second movie in the Matrix trilogy, and it covers the why, reason. It covers why questions and logic. According to Mark Passio, the first movie is the what, or knowledge. The second movie is the why, or understanding. And the third movie is the how, or wisdom. And this mirrors the Trivium Method of critical thinking of what, why, how. So in the second movie, The Matrix Reloaded, we have the Merovingian speaking to Neo and Morpheus. You know why we're here? I'm a trafficker of information. I know everything I can. The question is, do you know why you are here? Morpheus, we are looking for the keymaker. Oh yes, it is true, the keymaker, of course. But this is not a reason. This is not a why. The keymaker himself, his very nature, is a means. It is not an end. And so to look for him is to be looking for a means to do what? You know the answer to that question. But do you? You think you do, but you do not. You are here because you were sent here. You were told to come here, and you obeyed. It is, of course, the way of all things. You see, there is only one constant, one universal. It is the only real truth: causality, action, reaction, cause and effect. Everything begins with a choice. No, wrong. Choice is an illusion, created between those with power and those without. Beneath our poised appearance, the truth is, we are completely out of control. Causality. There is no escape from it. We are forever slaves to it. Our only hope, our only peace is to understand it, to understand the why. Why is what separates us from them, you from me. Why is the only real social power. Without it, you are powerless. And this is how you come to me, without why, without power. Another link in the chain. But fear not. I have seen how good you are at following orders. I will tell you what to do next. Run back and give the fortune teller this message. Her time is almost up. Now I have some real business to do. I will say adieu and goodbye. Mastering causality. Mastering our feelings through emotional integration of our shadow side moves us from an external locus of control to an internal locus of control. External cause or internal cause. The Merovingian was speaking of being external cause. The Merovingian represents the Merovingian bloodlines that used to rule Europe and probably still do from behind the scenes. They have cause over others. They are external cause over other people. And because they're external cause, then the external people also provide them energy, provide them money, provide them other things, and give them power. So they trick people out of their power because they are external cause, and the other people are also believing in external cause. Predator and prey are two sides of the same coin. We become internal cause rather than being susceptible to external causes when we move our external locus of control to an internal locus. Our reason for acting is now from our own volition rather than an external implanted urge. The Merovingian, those kinds of people who have power over others, the hidden ruling elite, those with mass amounts of money, they use things such as propaganda, mind control, predictive programming, other kinds of things to give people reason. They manipulate people through their emotions, and they become the reason. Oh, you feel guilty. Yes, well, because you feel guilty, you should give us things. You should give us money. You should give us your power. Because you should feel guilty for that. They're being the reason for them. But when we can move to our internal locus of control, now we're going to act from our own volition. We're going to have our own reason inside of ourselves. To understand this, we need to understand how we create our own reality. First, we have to think it, our mind patterns, our perceptions. Next, we need to feel it. It's your I amness, your emotions, logic, processing, reason. So your feelings around your heart center. You think it in your mind, it's your perceptions. You feel it, this is your I amness, I am this. Your logic, your processing. And then you act upon it. You manifest it, you create it. That's your actions. And then lastly, this feeds back to our thinking in a toroidal feedback loop. We need to get feedback from our experiences so that we can think about it again, go into our feeling and I amness, and then act upon it again, and it's a cycle. Reason generates emotion. If you look at emotion, it's E, motion. In fact, E stands for X, or out of, motion, or to move. Reason creates movement. So when we think it, then we feel it, and this creates movement. It generates, and then we start acting. So if they hijack our feelings, our emotions, and they place things on TV that scare us, or they place things on TV that make us feel bad or guilty, they do a false flag like 9/11, or like some of the other bombings that they've done, like the Paris bombings. They get us into our emotion, fear, sadness, guilt, rage, all these kinds of things. Now they're moving us. But we can move to an internal locus of control, so now we will move us, they will not. The Trivium Method of critical thinking. Grammar, which is knowledge, what, when, who, and where questions. So it's really all what questions, but when, who, and where are also what. This gives us knowledge. So we ask these questions to get our knowledge. To get our logic and understanding, we have to start asking why questions. And this is what the Merovingian was talking about. Neo and Morpheus came to him with no why. They had no understanding, no logic, no reason. He was their reason. Somebody else was their reason. Actually, it was the oracle that was the reason. They weren't the reason. The oracle was the reason. She was the why. Morpheus and Neo were not. They had no understanding. They had no internal volition. They were just serving a different master. And then you have rhetoric. This is the speaking. When I'm making this video, this is my rhetoric. This is wisdom. I'm giving you a what and a why. And how am I doing that? I'm using a video and I'm speaking it. I'm using my words. And then you have the feedback in a toroidal feedback loop back to grammar. And then the Trivium Method of critical thinking. The process of asking these questions goes in a cycle. And you need to really start with a what, go to the why, go through the how, and then back to the what again. And you just keep having these experiences. So now I will get feedback from this video. I will put this video online. I will get feedback from it. And now it will feed my knowledge and my understanding in future videos. If you're to look at the chakra system and how reality generation works, you have source, which is beyond our chakra system, and that feeds into our higher self. Then you have your thoughts, which is your third eye and your throat chakra. Your feelings or emotions, which is your heart and ego chakra. And then you have your actions, which is the sacral and the root chakra. And then it feeds back to your thoughts in a cycle. But also you can also feed back to source and higher self. So this is how source experiences life here on this planet, is through this process. Toroidal flow, reality generation, you can see how the torus goes through and acts. It goes cause down to effect, source, higher self, thoughts, feelings, actions, back, and feeds back to source. So we are part of a giant torus, and we have many smaller toruses that make up how we behave and act. You can see from a three-dimensional perspective how we create our own reality. Source consciousness grounding into an individual through the crown chakra. Where is our locus of control located? Our locus is located in our thoughts, but it can be hijacked through our feelings. Actually, It can be from source if we get ourselves in alignment, and it can be also through our higher self. So if our higher self is aligned with source and we're trying to align with our higher self, then that's kind of where it's at. But it's going to, in this life here, it's going to be in our thoughts, how we're programmed. It can be hijacked, though, through our feelings. Our locus is our reason for acting and creating. It motivates and generates our reality. We can have a higher reason or a lower reason. We can allow ourselves to have an external or an internal reason. If we're having an internal reason, then it's going to come from our higher self and source, and we're going to allow those things to program our thoughts, and then we're going to feel things based on that. Or we can be externalized, and then we're going to let our environment and nature and those kinds of things program us instead. Then our feelings are going to be hijacked very easily because we're in fear and we're in sadness. We're in this externalized mode of being. We are manipulated to our feelings as external reasons are given to us to act and react. So maybe it's an outside stimulus such as, a bear attack or something. I mean, as ridiculous as that. If we're living in times past and we didn't have external controllers, but we still had nature acting as this controller and we're fighting nature. Or it could be something that was programmed into us through TV and through our school systems, and that is an external reason that's coming through. And the TV, through a false flag, gets us to feel bad, and now we want to go to war, to fight back against this false flag terrorist attack that didn't really actually happen, but it's just manipulating our own reason. Manipulating reality. While this may seem extreme to some, external reality can be manipulated on a mass scale through means of propaganda, revisionist history, soft and hard mind control techniques, and technological means that manipulate the five senses, and maybe even reality itself. This could be considered mass-scale gaslighting. In light of the possibility of such external manipulations, is it better to conform to any new supposed realities, including rational science, or stay true to what is inside of us? Are you able to stay true to your inner core, even when you are being mocked and shamed for your irrational beliefs that contradict your external reality? Gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse in which a victim is manipulated into doubting his or her own memory, perception, and sanity. Instances may range from the denial by an abuser that previous abusive incidents ever occurred, up to the staging of bizarre events by the abuser with the intention of disorienting the victim. The term owes its origin to the 1938 play Gaslight and has been used in clinical and research literature. When somebody does not trust their own internal experience and an external pressure is presented that conflicts with their perception of reality, do you think that they will be more apt to trust themselves or the external stimulus they are presented with? For example, when such a person is asked questions about something they remember, and it turns out that the historical event differs from how they clearly remember it, do they trust their memory or the external historical record? What if it is a series of historical events that conflicts with their clear recollections of them? Which should they trust? What if they are being gaslighted by a person or group, and then ridiculed and told their memories were wrong and human error? Should they doubt themselves and conform to the external reality, or stay true and resist the so-called facts? Now let's look at this in light of the Mandela Effect. We are being told that history did not change, it's always been this way, and that we're just stupid. But if you think about it, this is causing us to distrust our own internal being. We're being gaslighted. We're moving further to an external locus of control. These external oriented people, they want us to also be externally oriented. And they're trying to gaslight us. They're trying to make us be more like them so that we can be controlled. But if we are going to stay true to who we are and really stay inside ourselves, we need to integrate our emotional attachments and integrate our emotional susceptibilities so that we cannot be gaslighted, that it will not work. But that's really what this Mandela Effect is. It's a mass-scale gaslighting event. It's causing us to doubt our own self. And the more that we doubt ourselves, the more we're moving from an internal locus of control to an external locus of control. And those people who have a very faint heartbeat, a very faint internal locus, they'll still remember, but they'll be very prone to externalizing and denying and going into cognitive dissonance about their own memories. Oh, it must have never been that. Now I remember. You do. Well, that just means that they went along with the gaslighting. They didn't have enough strength in the inside of them to hold on to who they were, and they moved outside. But those people who have a majority internal locus and a minority external locus, they might doubt a little bit, but as they gain information, they're going to become more and more firm in what they believe, in what they know to be true, what they know to be the actual history that they grew up with. Now, this doesn't mean that an internal locus of control is the only person that believes in the Mandela Effect. There might be those people who are external locus that are actually going to cognitive dissonance the other way because they want to conform with what everybody in their church is now seeing, or they want to conform to what their peers are seeing. So they also do not have a strong internal locus of control, and they're just following the crowd as well and saying, oh yes, the Mandela Effect. And they start coming up with false Mandela effects because they also have an external locus of control and they don't have these memories, and so they're coming up with these false things. So that is also possible. And I think it's fair to say that external locus of control people will actually believe in the Mandela Effect because they're external locus. Self-deluded people. And I touch on this again. To be clear, there are other possibilities as well. For what if a person thinks they're trusting their internal guidance and reasoning, when in fact their internal perception of reality has been shaped and molded from external pressures since childhood? When something comes in that conflicts with their externalized perception of reality, they resist it, even if it is directing them back to their true internal selves. Externalized people will tend to argue with other externalized people, and some are more rational in their externalized beliefs and opinions. Subjective versus objective. For example, a Christian who is conditioned to believe in an external Savior and God must be obeyed, subjective, may come into conflict with an atheist who believes in the need for external scientific proof prior to believing anything to be true, objective. In both cases, they are perceiving the external world as cause and their internal world as effect, which is at the heart of a materialistic worldview and an external locus of control. Yes, both religious people and rationalists have an external locus of control, which makes them more apt to go into debates about their beliefs and ideas. I don't get in debates with the religious people, and I don't get in debates with hyper-rationalists because it just doesn't go anywhere. They're both an external locus of control. Internal versus external locus. One with an external locus of control, let's say a rationalist, who approaches somebody who has even a tiny sliver of their internal locus of control remaining, may demand empirical proof of something's validity. Unfortunately, this is an impossible request to grant for the inside-out individual, since it is asking the internal locus of control of that person to submit and become merely an effect to an external locus of control. Their resistance to submitting to the external pressure does not mean that they are in cognitive dissonance, as their forfeiture of internal cause to the external pressure could itself be considered submitting to cognitive dissonance. So those religious people actually also could have a sliver of internal locus of control, even though part of them is still majority saying, well, God rules over me. That is their external locus speaking, but they still have an internal locus also where their memories are still there. They have partly internal locus. So this is the thing. It's not just black and white, one or the other. It's usually a hybrid, a mix, a percentage of internal, external. So some of your beliefs may be governed by the external locus of control, and some of them might be governed by an internal locus of control. Subject, object, and locus of control. You have subjective judgments, worldview, and you have objective judgments, worldview. But one without the other is imbalanced and is a worldview with an external locus of control. However, an internal locus of control is a relationship found between the subject and object, which is known in critical thinking as reasoned judgment. Two examples of external locus of control is organized religion on one side, which is subjective and mostly faith-based, and material science on the other, which is purely objective and based on finding external evidence, but also in a way faith-based. An internal locus of control is then found in what is known as mysticism, which is the bridge made in the relationship between the subject and the object, source and the mirror. The source and the mirror, or subject and object, are one through their relationship together, and not suffering in separation when only one or the other is valued. Some people overvalue the subjective, some people overvalue the objective. But then there are those who are going inside and have this internal locus of control where they are valuing subject and object. So you have the formula for truth, and this again mirrors the Trivium Method of critical thinking. Knowledge plus understanding minus contradictions equals wisdom or the truth. So what you have is what questions with knowledgeable answers plus why questions with logical answers minus contradictions equals how questions with wise answers. Truth. Conversely, we have a formula for a lie. It's hidden or a lack of knowledge without understanding with logical fallacies plus contradictions equals folly or lies. What questions with hidden and lacking answers? Why questions with fallacious answers? Contradictions equals how questions with foolish answers. Very bad solutions. An inside-out person or internal locus of control will apply this formula of critical thinking and asking questions upon themselves first and foremost by seeking to understand what they believe, why they believe it, and remove any contradictions that may be present between their what and their why. And as a result, they will discover better ways of how to behave and act in the external world. They will learn how to express themselves in a way that's free from contradiction with a very good what and why. An outside-in person or external locus of control will apply the formula for critical thinking in various different ways, and in some cases not at all, being more in a state of internal and external delusion and folly. If they do use this formula for truth, it will be looking at external knowledge rather than internal self-knowledge. And this can be manipulated and doctored by wealth, psychology, technology, and power. So I mean, you can see that things can be manipulated. People can be gaslighted. People with money can doctor results. They can pay for a scientific study. Companies do this all the time. They pay scientists to do a study for them that will give them the results that they want so that they can then prove that their product is a good product. Money buys things. So they will use logic that supports their emotional attachment to being accepted by their external reality, or that gets them paid, and logic that helps them avoid rejection and punishment from their external environment. They may also use their logic to manipulate and harm others who are internal cause, or those who are deluded external cause and not a part of the majority group. The contradictions that they seek to remove are not objective contradictions in the formula itself, but rather people and circumstances who will not submit to their externally focused group mind. So the contradiction is, hey, this person is showing me something I don't want to see. Kill them. This person is showing me something. They're showing other people the truth. Kill them. Get rid of them. Shame them. Discredit them. Take away their money. Sue them. Throw them in jail. We're going to remove all the contradictions because we do not want to see any more contradictions. So while they have the appearance of rationality, its purpose is purely in service to the group mind and dominant external reality, and not in service to the individual's empowerment and unique creative expression. So here's a good question. Is a rational discourse between somebody with an internal locus of control and perception and an external locus of control and perception possible? Is there any external proof that can be given to an externalized person in support of an internal causal reality? Or is it a fool's errand to even try? Could an externalized causal person ever be satisfied by the proof given by an internalized causal person? Or could an internalized causal person ever be truly satisfied by the proof given by an externalized causal person? It goes both ways. I'm not going to accept external rationality because it's outside in. It's not something that I've come to with my own reasoned judgment. I also place value on the subjective as well as the objective. And this person trying to prove something to me, I will consider certain facts. But if those facts are there in gaslighting me, if those facts are something that deny some of the core truths that I've come to through my own critical thinking process, I'm going to reject them. They could have been bought off. They could have been manipulated reality. There could be lots of things going on that I cannot see that are causing all these contradictions. So I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to believe them. Structure, locus, and natural law. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about boundaries. Children do not test their parents' boundaries to foment rebellion, but as a means of determining whether or not their parents are safe to place their trust in. Some parents are safe, some are too safe and controlling, and others are not safe at all. Think of boundaries as a brick wall that, when leaned against, does not buckle or collapse, but holds firm and true. It is safe to lean against, but if it does collapse and give in, then it is not safe to lean against. Structure and boundaries bring safety. Laws and rules are the same thing. They provide safety through their structure. Laws, rules, boundaries, and structure can either be internal or external, internal locus or external locus, whereas external rules implies the need for external rulers and can become instruments of slavery and control. Internal rules and laws implies internal rulership and can nurture individual sovereignty, freedom, and unique creative expression. The 7 Hermetic principles, also known as natural law, is an internal structure and lifeline extended to us from our source, God, that we can align with and anchor ourselves in. Even though it can be disregarded and ignored, it still stands as structure that we can either align with or find ourselves smashed against. In times of turmoil and strife, natural law is the only structure that will stand true throughout, as all external structures, laws, rules, and boundaries will perish and fade away. Now, it is also important to note that natural law, interpreted from an external locus of control, will now become a means of controlling people. So a lot of this information has been occulted, has been hidden from people, has been hidden in plain sight because they do not want them to know these things. If they were to know these things, they know that we would become empowered. So they use natural law against us. They destroy natural law. They purposely use it as a weapon to make us as unnatural as possible so that we will stray from our internal locus and move to an external locus. It is our job to go through and try to understand all these things that have been occulted, taken away, and then reinterpret them from an internal locus of control. Rather than being an instrument of control, such as the occultists use, these dark people that seek to control others, we can now use it as our tool of liberation and our way to anchor ourselves into the divine, to lean against that brick wall that doesn't cave and to feel safe and free. Hey, now I have this tether, I have this structure. I'm leaning against the wall and it doesn't crumble. And because it doesn't crumble, now I can go out into the world and know that I am safe and I am also free. But when we try to feel safe by using an external locus structure, and we lean against that external wall, those external rules, now what's going to happen is those people can keep changing that structure and they will keep removing our freedom. So we will not have freedom and safety. We will have safety without freedom. And then it becomes slavery. So the 7 Hermetic principles, or natural law, is 1, mentalism. The all is mind. The universe is mental. So while we have the different minds, we have a superconscious mind, the conscious mind, the unconscious mind, the subconscious mind. All these are mental planes. So the subconscious would be more like our DNA, that is nature. Unconscious mind would be our feelings, and that would be nurture. So that's nature and nurture. Now our conscious mind can either be enslaved to the subconscious and unconscious, or it can be the ruler of unconscious and subconscious. The next is correspondence, as above, so below, as below, so above. Jesus even talked about this. He said, "May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." On earth is below, and heaven is above. He was speaking of correspondence. The third principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Our thoughts hold a certain vibration. Our unconscious thoughts hold a vibration, our subconscious thoughts hold a vibration, our conscious thoughts hold a vibration. Polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. When I say opposites, I'm talking about things like positive and negative, up and down, questions and answers, teacher and students. I'm not talking about good and evil. That is a duality and not a polarity. Polarity is a Hermetic truth. It is natural law. But a duality is something that is a bastardization of natural law. It is something that is meant to enslave. It is making the masculine and feminine, the male and female, war against each other. It's making light and dark fight against each other. It is not something that works together like poles in a magnet or poles in a toroidal field. Rhythm. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. Rhythm is, yes, it's a pendulum swinging. It's the left and the right. But it's also like a sine wave in the cycles of life. You have different cycles. You have different seasons. You have different holy days and holidays that represent different cycles. And that is the principle of rhythm. When you're plugged into the natural rhythm, then things kind of go your way. When you resist the natural rhythm, then things will not go your way. Now, a lot of the dark occultists use these cycles against us because we don't understand the cycles they do. So then on certain days, holy days, holidays, etc., they will master these cycles and do a false flag or something on one of those days. Now, we can also use those cycles for our benefit, but they use it for their benefit and to our detriment. The sixth principle, which we spoke of earlier, every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause. And lastly, gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. This is why there is a war on gender. They are trying to make androgyny the new thing. Why? Because you can be controlled easier. They don't want you to be in your gender. They want to confuse your gender. They want you moving all over the place, and they do not want you to really come home to who you are. And this is the whole thing where people say, well, there is no gender in the higher realms. Bull. There is. Why? Correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. If it's here, it is there. There is gender in its own way. Now, it might be different. It might be a gender energy or some kind of corresponding thing, but it's still there. When you make yourself androgynous, you get some kind of a false balance between the two, and you are no longer experiencing the power of polarity. Polarity allows for actual movement, for the energy to really generate. But when you remove polarity and you put it in the middle and there's no more pendulum swing, there's no more rhythm, then you're going to be able to control people because they have no power. They have no cause within their own life. They have no causality. So you're removing people's ability to be cause in their own life when you confuse their gender. And so there is a giant push to mess with everybody's gender, to trap people to think that, oh yes, it's okay to really be gender confused. No, it's not okay. We have to really understand ourselves. We need to go in and figure out who we really are. Now, I'm not saying that on a whole that people that have gender confusion that they should be shamed. No, they should be assisted. They need to really start doing anima and animus work, which Carl Jung coined about working through their masculine and feminine issues. It is a part of the shadow work process. You have shadow work, you have anima work, you have animus work. And that is so that you can balance your masculine and feminine and really know who you are. Yes, we have masculine and feminine inside of us, and we need to master that. We need to really go into our primary polarity, but also be able to work together with that secondary polarity so that we can actually generate and be powerful, be cause in the world. Resistance and the locus of control. Just because one might resist being controlled by another external being or group does not mean that they are exercising their willpower from an internal locus of control, as it could mean that they prefer to be the external dominating party, or that they only like being controlled by a specific type of external party that best matches their own mind patterns. For example, both a religious person focus on the subjective and a materialist focus on the objective have an external locus of control, but the religious person will resist and reject the control of materialism and science, while the materialist will resist and reject control of any god or religious authority. As a mystic, I place a premium focus on our psychological health. and on the psychological health of the individual. In fact, I feel that the only work that really needs to be done is the psychological integration necessary to move the locus of control from external to internal. My theory is that most people that have their old memories have at least a sliver of an internal locus of control, and that most who do not remember and or fight against those who do have an external locus of control. And of course, this is in relationship to the Mandela Effect. I hope to help people who are interested in taking responsibility for their experiences with this phenomenon, and in general, to inspire them in moving their locus from external to internal. Until we are fully self-realized and integrated, the only real decision we have is in where we decide to develop our locus of control. Religion, science, occultism, atheism, communism, fascism, socialism, etc. all assume external cause and external locus of control. Nature, nurture, or some divine will is in control and not us. Internal locus of control is self-determining and is more connected to entrepreneurism, anarchism, mysticism, etc., and is about being cause from within. Blind faith is having an external locus, as it is hoping in an external force to be fair with its cause over us, while founded faith is when we follow the logical implications of our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors to their logical ends, and know that things will turn out in a specific way of our conscious choosing. It is not always black or white, as most people will have a mix of internal and external locus of control, but will probably lean more one way or the other. It is each being's personal choice as to where they will decide to focus and develop their locus, external or internal, and this will lead them on two very different paths and qualities of experience. We're not all in this together. We're not all the same. There's two different types of people here, external, internal, the tares and the wheat. An external locus will lead to channeling our life force energy towards collectivism, enmeshment, conflict, dominance, and submission, while an internal locus will lead us to channeling our life force energy towards individuality, creativity, harmony, and personal sovereignty. If you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you're not already a subscriber and would like to keep up to date on my videos, please subscribe. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments section below. I'm Nathan Martin with the Divine Pollination Hive and the UnityProcess.com. Be safe, be sovereign, be well.